Hello, everybody. Welcome to our third H20 Smart Glasses Community Meetup. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, awesome. Well, I expect, as always, we're going to have a bunch of people roll in over the next 30 seconds. And so I'll introduce what we've got going on here, and then we'll get started. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and welcome to the H20 Smart Glasses Community Meetup. This is our third meetup, and my name is Caden. I'm a director at H20, and I'll be hosting things tonight. So we have a lot planned tonight. For the first half of the event, we're going to hear presentations from two speakers, Samson March and Dan Scarfe. And then we'll have about 15 minutes of Q&A where you can ask your questions to Samson and Dan, whatever you want. And then we're going to finish off with some open discussion and networking. Depending on how many people and how things are going, we'll break into rooms, or we'll just talk in the main group. And so let's get started. First off, for those who don't know, if you're new to the community, welcome. The H20 Smart Glasses community is an open, not-for-profit collective, and we're dedicated to advancing the field of smart glasses. And we're primarily doing that by bringing together users and developers and industry, everybody together into this kind of closed loop feedback system where we're really focused on use cases, we're focused on users, and we're focused on building smart glasses that are going to actually make human lives better. And you'll be able to see from our previous meetups, as well as what happens here, that we have a large focus on what actually exists right now and the use cases that are actually applied in our lives today. So I'm going to post a link real quick here into the chat, which is our community site. And so if you're new, check that out, and you can click the big Join Now button on that website, which is our mailing list. And so if you like the content that we're talking about today, that's the best way to join the fun and stay in touch. So let's get started. Let's get into the presentation. So we've got two speakers tonight. Sorry if never mind. We have two speakers tonight, Samson March and Dan Scarfe. I'm super excited for their presentations to hear what they have for us regarding smart glasses. Samson's going to start. Samson is an electrical engineer, and he's a maker, and he rose to some hacker fame when I first came across him a few years ago with his open source smartwatch. And then more recently, he's done his open source smart glasses and DIY smart glasses. So he's got skills across software, mechanical, electrical, which makes his projects very interesting because Samson does all of it himself and then shows it all from kind of idea to reality. And so Samson's going to show us some about his DIY smart glasses and talk about how he made them. So take it away, Samson.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hopefully I can figure out the best way to do that real quick. Share screen. All right. Oh, my bad. I have to rejoin the meeting. Give me one sec. Sorry.
No problem. Let's hope he comes back, eh? Didn't just get stage fright.
All right, let's try this again. Apparently, I had never given Zoom permission to share my screen from this computer before. All right, can you guys see my screen? Hopefully.
Yes.
Amazing. All right, so Hi, everyone. My name is Sam. And like Caden mentioned, I am an electrical engineer by trade and um, a curious individual by nature, right? So I think that's the best way to describe it. So we'll do a quick presentation. I'm going to try and blast through it really quick because I know there's going to be tons of questions for both myself and for Dan, and then amongst each other um, throughout today. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. But real quick, who am I? So, like I said before, my name is Sam. I am an electrical engineer by trade and by, I guess, profession. I do kind of consulting engineering is pretty much the best way to describe what I do at a fundamental level. So people come to me with all sorts of ideas and they say, hey, I have this crazy idea for this crazy product. And I say, hey, let's make it a reality. So I've worked for all sorts of Fortune 500 companies. I've worked for Weber Grills. I've worked for L'Oreal. You know, you pick a company. I've probably done some product for them at some point or another. And like Caden mentioned, there I am heavily invested in making my own personal projects. And honestly, the reality of that is I love what I do and I do it after work as well. So if I dream up something wild, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should spend some time working on that just as a hobby project. So the smartwatch there in the top left corner that you're seeing, that was the one that Caden was mentioning earlier. It was a project I did a couple of years ago. I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I had a watch that I really liked the look of that wasn't just a square computer on my wrist. So I got to making my own. The quick story of how I got here is, as a kid, I loved playing with Legos. I loved building things. I went to college and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew was that I really liked making things. And one day I stumbled into an engineering class purely by accident. And they happened to be playing with, or I shouldn't say playing, they were building things with Legos as part of one of their labs. And I just asked the professor if I could sit down and join them. And he said, yeah, come on in. And kind of the rest is history. So that's kind of how I got where I am. Now, here's the big question. Why did I design a pair of smart glasses? And we'll talk a little bit more about the smart glasses themselves in a sec. The short answer is this. I have a very strong internal philosophy about what technology should do. And in my head, technology should be a provider of information and not necessarily something that I have to poke at and interact with and deal with. I don't want to have to think about it. I just want stuff to happen. I want stuff to come to me. I want to walk into my house and my lights turn on. I want to look out the window and maybe my sunglasses show me exactly what the temperature is going to be for the day, or whatever it may be. I want that interaction to feel just like a part of my normal everyday. I don't want to have to think about it. And so this must have been 1 or 2 summers ago. I was out on a walk and I was out with my wife and we were walking around town, and we lived in Chicago at the time. And it's a big city, lots to do, lots to think about. And as we were walking around, it was a beautiful day. I was staring at my phone the whole time. And I was staring at my phone, not because I was like interacting with, or doing things. I wasn't like playing a game or anything, but we were going from point A to point B. And I told my wife that I could direct us there, but I needed the map on my phone to get us there. So as we're walking, we get to our destination, we get to the restaurant that we're going. And my wife was asking me about all the fun little things that she saw on the walk over. And I didn't notice any of them, because I was so focused and so engrossed on getting us from point A to point B, I didn't actually get to enjoy the walk. And so I started thinking a little bit more, well, what if there was a way for me to enjoy my walk, right? Like, what if I could make some sunglasses or something, that I could just put on my face as I'm walking out the door and say, hey, I'm going from point A to point B, but I don't want to think about the map. I don't want to think about directions. I just want to, be told, hey, take a left here, take a right there. And that's it. So that was kind of the initial thought process as to how these glasses came to be. The other big part of this, and it was true of the smartwatch a couple of years ago, is, for better or for worse, style and personal taste is exactly that. It's personal, right? What I like to wear and what I think looks cool may not necessarily be what you think is cool or what you like to wear. And so I wanted to make something that was truly mine, something that talked about kind of me as a person and fit with who I thought I am, for better for worse. So I started working on some smart glasses, and at a high level, all these glasses do is they are some bamboo wooden glasses, and in the legs of the frames there are two small circuit boards, and those small circuit boards talk to my phone. And so all it's doing is it's really just acting as a middleman, doing what I was doing on that walk without me having to think about it. So my phone says, hey, take a left here. My glasses say, hey, it's time to take a left. And I'm alerted that, it's time to take a left turn. But that way, again, my phone stays in my pocket. I'm just wearing some sunglasses out on a walk, and I get to go where I need to go. I don't know how interested everyone is in the deep nitty gritty of the build and how this is all assembled and created and everything, but I'll do a quick high level talk on how I made it, all the different parts that go into it. If you guys have more questions, feel free to ask. I could talk to you guys for hours on end about all of this. But again, just to keep it kind of high level for now. So let's talk electronics. When I talk about electronics, and I'm an electrical engineer, so it's oftentimes hard for me to be like, oh, let's talk about electronics and not talk about all the super detailed, intricate schematics and stuff like that. But when I talk about schematics, I like to think of it as like a human body is like a good analogy in my head, where you have a microcontroller or some sort of processor that's acting as kind of like the brains of the operation. And that brain is making the decisions about what to do and how to do them. And then you have the sensors. And in this case, the sensors might be, something that tells you the orientation, whether you're facing up or you're facing down, or how bright it is, or how loud it is, whatever it may be. Those are same thing as just like your sensing organs, right? Your nose, your ears, your eyes, telling your brain what is going on with the world. The next step is kind of a tricky one. I tend to talk about them as, I call them actuators. And for better for worse, they're the things that do actions. And so in this particular case, there really is only one major action that is happening. And there are just some little lights in the glasses that tell you, hey, it's time to take a left here, or hey, it's time to take a right here, whatever that may be. But those actuators, I like to think of them as like your limbs or your fingers or your hands, right? Or maybe sometimes it's even your mouth and it's saying something out loud. But it is the part of the device that is interacting with the world outside. And then the last part that is fundamental to all this is the power system. And that's the battery and all the circuitry that takes that energy from that battery and turns it into something useful for your whole circuit. So I like to think of it as like the digestive system, right? I need to eat some fuel, and then my gut turns that fuel into something usable for my body. And then my body can use that to interact with the world or think about things or whatever it might be. So in this case, there's a processor on, there are actually two of these boards in the glasses, one on each side, but there's a processor in each one, and the processor is the brain, and that brain also communicates with my phone over Bluetooth. There's a sensor or two in there that are just checking for a couple things like brightness and trying to identify the state of the battery and things like that, just understanding what's going on with the world. And then there's the LED that tells us, hey, you know what, it's time to turn left or right. And last but not least, there's the actual battery itself with all the circuitry, all the components in there that turn that into usable information. So that's the electronics. Cool. Once you have the electronics going, the next big step is you actually have to code the things. And the coding in this analogy, it's like the thoughts that go on in your brain, right? You have this brain, and if the brain is not thinking anything, is it really doing anything at all? So in this particular case for these glasses, right, I was telling you, I wanted to be able to get from point A to point B, and I wanted to do so without having to physically pull out my phone and look at it. So there are two sets of code that I had to create. One is the set of code that lives on those little circuit boards. And that set of code, all it's doing is it's listening for my phone to interact with it and say, hey, you know what, it's time to take a left turn, or hey, it's time to take a right turn, or whatever that might be. And then there's the other set of code that runs on the actual phone itself. And that's what you're seeing at the beginning of this video, where I'm typing in, oh, I want to go to Corona Cafe, and it's going to map out the directions for me. And then it's going to know when it's time to turn and send that information to the actual glasses themselves. One cool thing that I take from these hobby projects, and one of the big reasons I like to do them, is I learn so much. And I always tell people that the best way to learn new things is to just dive into it, jump into it. And often I found that when I was in college, and even the first couple of years of my career right after, I found that I would be stuck in this analysis paralysis where I would just be reading and reading and reading all these different things, all these guides and all these instructions on how to do things better. And in the end, I would spend a month doing that, and then I'd burn out. I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. It seems too complicated. And I'd never do it. And then at some point, something changed, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to skip the month of reading, and I'm just going to dive in. And when I have a question, I'll look it up and I'll start working on it. And lo and behold, I found myself progressing a lot faster that way. It may not work for everyone. That's what worked for me to kind of get over that hump, that analysis paralysis hump. So in this case, for this particular project, one thing that I was really excited about is I had never created an app before. I do a lot of hardware design, the physical stuff that you hold in your hands, but I don't do a lot of coding on a day-to-day basis anymore. So I was really excited to spend some time and learn a little bit about iOS and Apple iPhones and coding apps on them. And one thing that I thought was really cool, and I'll just share with you, it's a little tidbit, is the way that mapping applications keep their battery consumption really low. They don't waste energy trying to figure out where they are in the world. Is they actually, what you can do is when you map something, instead of constantly tracking the user every meter, every foot where they're going, what you do is you kind of set up this perimeter and you say, hey, you know what? As soon as the user walks into this big perimeter, I want the phone to be alerted. And so what you see here is every time there's a corner approaching, or every time there's a direction change that I need to make, my phone gets an alert from the mapping services. And it says, hey, you know what? You're about 30 feet away from the corner. Now's your time to do something. And so my phone for most of the time is actually in this really low power sleep mode, and it's not really doing anything. And all of a sudden it'll just get an alert, say, hey, it's time to do something. And then it'll send that to my glasses, and my glasses tell me, you know what, hey, it's time to make a turn here. So that was one little fun thing that I got from this project that was kind of unique and different. And then the last part of building kind of these interesting hobby projects is the mechanical design, right? Like thinking through what this thing needs to look like and how it needs to be housed, and what the features are that are important to you to make this feel like something that you'd want to wear, something that you enjoy showing off to friends and family. And so for this particular project, I knew I wanted something that was a sustainable material. So I found a whole bunch of bamboo boards, and I used that bamboo to carve out the frames of these glasses. The lenses themselves were, I don't remember. I think they might have been acrylic ultimately in the end. I think I tried a couple different plastics for them. But when I was making the lenses, the acrylic seemed to do the best in getting me like some nice polished clarity so that it wasn't hard to see through them. I wish I'd brought in a picture of the lenses so you could see them, but if I had to do this again, I would not make my own lenses. That was a huge time suck, sitting there sanding and polishing lenses for hours and hours and hours on end. But overall, so what you're seeing here is the first step of the process, right? And that is,
Hey, sorry, Sam, we'll just have to finish up in the next minute or so.
you are all good. This is my last slide. So perfect. Last little bit here. 3D design, it's called computer aided design. CAD is what we call it typically. And all you're seeing here is physically modeling out all those little parameters. And one thing that was really important to me was it had to fit my face and it had to fit my style. So what you don't see in that video up top is I actually had taken a picture of my face and aligned it to the actual 3D render so I could make sure that it actually fit my face all nice and everything. Long story short, made a pair of smart glasses. And I hope that was useful and interesting to you guys. If you have questions, I'd love to answer them. I know we're like running short on time. So try to get through it all as quick as I possibly could.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks a lot, Sam. And keep your questions in mind. We'll have 15 minutes after Dan's talk to ask Dan and Sam both questions. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Sam. That's super cool. I have some questions that I'll save. And by the way, I forgot to mention, while I introduce Dan here, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Say where you're calling from, why you're calling in, what interests you, etc. But yeah, next up we have Dan Scarfe. Dan's a serial entrepreneur. He's currently the CEO and founder of X-Ray Glass, and he's going to be joining us to talk a little bit about what they're up to at X-Ray. X-Ray is a company building augmented reality software and apps. Their primary use case is around live captions for the deaf and hard of hearing, but they're also exploring other areas as well in terms of intelligence tools. So Dan, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me. And hopefully you can see my screen okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, that was certainly a tough act to follow. There is something magical about hardware, and we didn't get to do anything anywhere near as sexy as that. In fact, we used somebody else's set of smart glasses, as you can see, modeled here by our brand ambassador, Tasha. So we have partnered with Nrail to create X-Ray Glass. And without any further ado, can I please introduce you? So for those of you that don't know, the inspiration behind X-Ray Glass came from my granddad, Peter Scarfe, 97 years old, full cognitive capacity, still sharp as a nail, but like most 97-year-olds, unfortunately has lost almost all of his hearing. And this past Christmas was just soul destroying, really, watching him, surrounded by his family, but unable to engage in the conversation. So I'm not quite sure when epiphany struck me, but I suddenly thought, well, hang on, we've got live captioning in Zoom and Teams and so forth. We've got these new augmented reality glasses that are coming out. Why can't we subtitle the real world? So that started our quest and our mission to subtitle the world through easy to use and empowering technology. And I could obviously talk all day about this, but I've got a very short amount of time. So I'll just give you a little bit about what it does, a little bit about how it works, and then we could open up for some questions. But there are three main components to the X-Ray Glass software. The first one is our core subtitling experience. So effectively, we can take ambient voices, which we can capture from all around us, and we can turn that into subtitles in augmented reality in real time. We support 12 different languages and variants. So English, British, American English, Australian English, French Canadian, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, South Korean, and Japanese. And yes, I'm getting quite good at saying them. So the first part is just, as I said, capturing that audio around us and turning it into subtitles. Of course, though, once we've got support for all of those 12 different languages and variants, it's not particularly complicated to be able to translate between them. So that was a feature that we recently added. So you can effectively capture audio in any of those 9 variants, and you can then have it translated in real time to any of the other 9 variants, which is super helpful now for people going on holiday or business travelers or anybody that needs to be able to have a conversation with someone that doesn't speak the same language. So that's the kind of the second main part of what we do. But the bit that we are probably most excited about is our partnership with OpenAI. So some of you may have seen on the internet the past couple of weeks that everyone is going wild about something called ChatGPT, which is a brand new large language model, which was released by OpenAI a couple of weeks ago. What's kind of interesting is that we've actually been working with that platform for some months now. And again, the best way to experience what this is like is to do a quick demonstration.
So we thought the best way to describe how the technology actually works within X-Ray would be to ask X-Ray. I mean, it can respond to questions. Let's ask it. Hey X-Ray, what are you? Hey X-Ray, what is a large language model? Hey X-Ray, what is the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality? Hey X-Ray, what's the difference between a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Malbec? Hey X-Ray, what is the most state-of-art large language model available in the world today?
So, I mean, that video doesn't even begin to do justice to the power of these large language models. It really is a breakthrough set of technologies, this ability to be able to have this natural language conversation with a machine effectively. What we can also do is we can take previous conversation histories and use that as prompts to these models. So you can ask questions about conversations you've had. You can ask it to summarize conversations or ask for clarification of different things. And this is something that we are really, really excited for people to be able to explore and interact with these glasses now. So as some of you know, we launched this solution to the world on November 17th, and it's fair to say we got a little bit of attention, in fact, quite a lot of attention. So this thing went absolutely viral. We got millions and millions of hits across online, Daily Dose of Internet, World Economic Forum, Yahoo News. We also had broadcast news coverage in dozens and dozens of countries around the world, including China and India and Argentina and back across the US. So it was quite incredible to be in the middle of such a media frenzy. But I guess it's testament to the power of the story and the challenge that we are hopefully helping individuals to overcome. So that's been a lot of fun the past few weeks. I won't go into obviously super detail about how it works. If any of you have got any sort of more detailed questions later, we can cover it. But quite simply, we can capture audio from all around us. We can capture audio from microphones on the glasses, from microphones in the phone, from Bluetooth microphones, from conference pucks, from anywhere where we can get audio from effectively. And we then send that audio to the phone. And on that phone, we can then process that audio. We do support offline models. So we do have the ability to do that voice to text on the phone. Honestly, it's not very good. So we haven't actually released it because we don't think it's good enough. But we do have the ability to do it. So what we do as our hero offering is to take that audio and send it up to a range of different cloud transcription providers. So the version that's live today is using AWS. We are soon releasing another version which supports DeepGram, and we will be supporting a whole range of different transcription providers in the future to make sure that we can cover off as many different languages and as many different dialects as possible. So we send that audio stream up to the cloud, and we then get back the diarized, or sorry, the subtitles effectively, along with who said each section. That is then stored on the device. And again, that's something that we're super passionate about, that this data should only ever be stored on device. And we can then present it up within augmented reality on today, the Nreal augmented reality glasses, but in the future on a whole range of different glasses. For our enterprise customers, we also support mobile device management and enterprise single sign-on, so that this thing is ready for business use as well as consumer. As we said, privacy is something that we are super focused on. We describe ourselves as a Web3 decentralized organization. We do not have access to any of these transcripts. We have designed ourselves out by purpose. So all of that data is owned by the user on their device. So that's something that we are very passionate about. There's so much more I could tell you about. I'm sure you've all probably got tons and tons of questions, and I will just cover one of those in advance because it's one that we are asked at least 400 times every day. So I thought I would get ahead of the game and answer this one before anybody else answered it. Why don't we support Apple? So unfortunately, this is not a limitation from our application. In fact, our application could run just fine on iOS. This is actually down to how the glasses operate. So these Nreal glasses and all of the other consumer AR glasses in the market at the moment are all powered by a company called Qualcomm. So Qualcomm is one of those companies that you've probably never heard of, but they make a set of chips called Snapdragon processors. And those Snapdragon processors are actually the ones that power the glasses. Now, those Snapdragon processors are not available in Apple phones, unfortunately. Apple are rumored to be releasing their own glasses at some point towards the end of next year, and we are very hopeful that they will let us run our software on their glasses. But for the time being, at least, unfortunately, full AR is Android only. There is an adapter for these, so you can get some functionality on the iPhone, and that is something that we are hoping to support next kind of January, February time. But that was the main question that we get asked. So I thought I would just answer that one. Any further questions, please do reach out on any of our social channels, on our website, or email us, or of course, the floor is now yours, I believe, to ask whatever question you like. So with that, I shall hand back to you, Aidan.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Dan. That's very cool, and definitely one of the best smart glasses use cases we're seeing right now. So yeah, we're doing Q&A. It starts right now. If you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll pick you, or just go ahead and start talking. I see some in the chat, and so I will just start reading those off. I saw one asking the latency between the speech sound capture and when the captions are displayed. That's from Sam to Dan.
So I can do a live demonstration of what the delay is. So you can see here, this is the app just running on the phone, and you can see there it is less than a second between the audio being spoken and the display coming up on the phone. But obviously this is exactly what you would see in the smart glasses. So it's pretty quick.
Awesome. Someone else was wondering if the glasses Bluetooth is going to interfere at all with hearing aid Bluetooth.
So hearing aids actually don't use proper Bluetooth standards. So all of the connectivity between hearing aid kind of equipment is all radio frequency. That is because there is a latency, there is a delay within Bluetooth normally. So all of the hearing aid equipment, it all uses RF radio waves. So no, there is no interference at all between the glasses and hearing aids.
Gotcha. Jan, I think you're muted, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I was. Sorry. What about a cochlear implant, Dan? Would it work with that?
It does, absolutely. In fact, Dory, who is joining us today, is our VP of Customer Experience, is actually a cochlear implant user. So she can confirm live that they do work perfectly with cochlear implants.
Sorry. They do work, but as long as you turn off the connection and you do speakerphone, you can definitely do that. But I have not yet done it with like the Bluetooth with the phone directed app. I know that that's something that we definitely want to look into. But the speaker on the phone and the cochlear implant, they do not impact the quality of hearing.
Lynn, I saw your hand was up, or Ian, sorry. LYNN or IYNN had their hand up.
I'm Lynn, and I had my hand up, but you answered it about the Bluetooth question.
Okay, great, sounds good. Then yeah, Jan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have some basic technical questions. I hate your manual. I have the glasses. I've downloaded the app. I have the thing plugged in, and then after that, nothing works. So it doesn't even tell you how to take these things out. So who do I talk to about this? Do I just email Jack? Dan, rather?
Yes, so I mean, Dory can help you, but yeah, the best thing is just to email just support@xray.glass, and then we
Okay.
can pick up.
I can do that.
Jane, I put the email. I responded to I believe Carol about getting some help with the support email out there. If you can just go up in the chat, I can post it again. But yeah, if you can just email there, we'll definitely set up an onboarding call.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you.
Joanne, you can go ahead.
Hi there. Yes, I'm a producer and I'm very interested in the applicability of the glasses in theater. Have you tested that out at all for live theater?
Not specifically yet, but there is no reason why it shouldn't work. As with most captioning solutions, it's all down to the quality of the audio that you can get into it. The higher the quality of the audio in, the better the quality the captioning will be. But as I mentioned, one of the kind of accessories that we recommend are these Bluetooth microphones. So, you know, this microphone can be up to 12 meters away from the glasses and capture audio perfectly. And then you will then get, you know, very good quality captioning within the glasses. This has also got a headphone jack in it. So if there are public address systems or, you know, anywhere where you can just plug a set of headphones in effectively, you can then take that audio stream and then subtitle it in real time.
Great.
Okay.
Samson, I have a question for you. So you talked a lot about making them. I'm wondering, once you had them together, did you end up using them in your daily life at all? And then maybe alongside that, what might you do if you were to work on them further? What would you do next?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do use them fairly regularly. We moved from Chicago to an East Coast city, and so I still have a lot of the same issues where I need to get from point A to point B. So yeah, I use them fairly regularly. I think the one thing that I probably would ultimately end up changing is I think I'd like to include some sort of like audio feedback as well, in addition to the light feature. Originally, I wanted something that was wouldn't be intrusive to other people around me. So I didn't want like a loudspeaker or anything going on telling me to turn left or turn right. But I have found that on a very bright day, I may actually miss a cue because, you know, something flashes and I don't know whether it's a car driving by and I'm just getting something reflected off of a windshield, or whether it's actually the LED triggering. So I think that'd probably be the next step.
Gotcha. Cool. Say Kat, I think, was next in line.
Yeah, so I am from India, so I have a question like do you have any plan, or do you actually support the complex languages like Hindi or Arabic?
So as I mentioned, we don't actually do the transcription ourselves. So we work with a range of different transcription partners that actually do that for us, which means that we are dependent on whatever they support. Now, right now, they don't support that for real-time transcription, or the providers that we use today don't. But it is something that we are acutely aware of the requirements for, and we are going to be launching new providers with new languages over the coming months. So watch this space.
Right. Okay. And to show the text in the glass, so are you using Unity?
Yeah, the subtitles appear in augmented reality, so they appear wherever you position them. So I can pin them in 3D space, like next to the person that I'm talking to. We can move between 0.5 meter and 5 meters away. And then the glasses have got gyroscopes in them. So as you move your head, the subtitles stay locked in 3D space.
Okay, so are you using Unity platform to generate the text? Okay.
Yes, the application is built in Unity, yes. Well, it's a combination of Unity and React.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Juan, I think you were up next.
Hi, yes, I have a question, which is, I know that the app is very limited to some specific cell phones, right? I want to know exactly if you are going to, when the app is going to be more user-friendly, and I mean, you are going to make it more user-friendly, and if so, when is going to be the estimated date that is going to be done?
Well, I mean, we'd hope that the app is already reasonably user-friendly. I mean, we've tried to make it as user-friendly as we can. I mean, bear in mind that this is brand new technology. It's only just come out. You know, everyone on this call, you're all trailblazers. So you're amongst the first people in the world to experience this technology. So there are a few bumps in the road and a few little hoops that you need to jump through, as Jan is discovering or about to discover. But the good news is that they are easily solvable. And then once you're up and running, then you're away. But it's a bit lumpy still right now, unfortunately. But this technology is going to get better and better over the coming years.
Mhm.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Stefan, I think, is next up.
Thank you very much, and keep it up with the good work.
I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
I joined you with my phone. I'm not so experienced in Zoom with my phone. I'm a bit surprised that you said it's newest technology. I don't know, but I have a question to Sam or something. Maybe it's a bit crazy and maybe a bit away from the topic, but there are companies like NextMind where you can, let's say, manage to control something with your mind. Have you ever tried something to do this, or have you ever experienced
Yeah.
such technology?
Years ago, funny enough, I was working on a project for a fashion company, and they wanted to do stuff with EEGs, so electroencephalograms, where it is, for all intents and purposes, looking at like alpha, beta, and gamma waves in your brain and trying to determine. They're trying to do it for relaxation purposes. So they were looking into whether or not they could identify when a user was like in a deep sleep state while they were wearing the glasses. They actually had, or it was more like a headband, I guess. And they were trying to identify like deep sleep states, and then from that determine like when to bring on and off like home automation stuff. So like rolling up your curtains or rolling down your curtains, like when it's time to wake up in the morning and you're at the best point of your sleep cycle to wake up. But it would be really cool. I don't know that I have seen the technology that is advanced enough to like pinpoint a specific action associated with like brain activity. So I can't be like, move the cursor to the right, or click on this button over here, just by thinking about it. And that could just be my naivete in the subject. It could exist.
It's called, there's a company called NextMind. I'm not sure if you heard of it.
Okay, I'll definitely have to look into them.
Okay.
I don't know enough about them, but it sounds like it'd be a really cool alternative to having physical buttons or interaction methods that I hate dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Stefan.
Okay,
I think
thank you.
Gabriel is up next.
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay? I know my
Yep.
AirPods are in.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you guys. I am a graduate student at Columbia University studying theater management and producing, and I just wrote my thesis on the incorporation of smart caption glasses into theatrical spaces. And I was recently in London at the National Theatre to explore how they use their glasses, and I bought a pair of them myself to see how they work. And now I am currently trying to figure out how to incorporate this into Broadway. My thesis is about the business plan on how to do so. But one of the problems that I keep running into is a lot of there's a company on Broadway called GalaPro, and they basically preset their texts in order for it to then be seen on the app and stuff like that. But this is a much better design. The text is actually down lower. I'm wondering if for X-ray, are you guys able to preset any text that then and then how can we make the preset text align with the cues that are being set on stage so it knows when to change lines?
So unfortunately, no. All we support is live. Like, we have no notion of pre-recorded scripts or anything like that. But as Joe asked earlier, I mean, could this work? I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't work, and it's all just going to be live. So no need to queue up anything, because it's always just going to be live audio. It's always going to be in line.
And is it possible to then download your software onto any piece of hardware that exists?
Well, if you want to just use it on the phone, like it is here, or it's just transcribing in the background, any Android 12 phone will work. But if you want it to work on the glasses, and actually this app runs on the Epson. It was quite funny, Epson phoned the day after launch and said, "We've downloaded your app and it works on our Epson."
Oh, amazing.
So you can download it on your glasses now and try it if you want. But it only works in basic mode. So it's not full augmented reality. So the Epsons don't have 3 degrees of freedom. So you can't pin the captions in 3D space in your head and they stay still. But you can do that with the N-Rails.
What's the hardware company that you got it from? Just one more time.
They're called N-Rail Air.
N-Rail. Got it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I think Isadora is up next.
Hi, the question for Sam. By the way, great presentation. I was just I've always said that I always lose my sunglasses. My father, when he was an optometrist, he would always get so frustrated with me because he's always like, "How do you lose these glasses?" Like, so I'm just wondering, like, would there be a kind of like find iPhone? Would you ever have that ability with your glasses to be able to find your glasses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So maybe I think the answer is yes, is the short answer. The long answer is all these projects that I talk about and present about, I make them for myself. So like, it's like anything that I can dream about, I can do, type of thing. But in this scenario, yeah, it actually already kind of can. When the phone connects to the glasses, you can actually toggle the LEDs on and off directly from the phone, just like manually if you wanted to. So, if they were lost in your couch somewhere, you could toggle the LEDs and have it blink a couple times. No speakers yet, but that was kind of what we were talking about earlier, where maybe that's something in the future to add and, see where it goes.
Awesome. Yeah, so now we move into discussion, but the line between Q&A and discussion is very fuzzy. So, this is going great. So we can just continue. There's more people interested, but I will just say if anyone has anything that they wanted to add that's not a question, we'll feel free to speak up in general. I think Jay did have his hand up next, but
I have a
we'll be
question.
more free flowing from now on.
Can you hear me?
Sure, go ahead.
Is everything that's transcribed on the glasses also transcribed on the phone? So if you miss something, you can go back and read it?
Yep, so I can go back and see the entire conversation that we had.
It's both places.
Yep, both places.
Great. Jay Chavers, I saw you had your hand up for a bit.
I do. And this is kind of to expand on Gabriel's question about predetermined text. I was wondering if the system has the ability to have either a custom dictionary or learn custom words, because there are many different dialects in different languages, and sometimes the automatic closed captioning struggles with names or geographical places or things like that that we've tried to use in the past.
So the short answer is, unfortunately, today, no, because we don't, that would be a custom model per user effectively. So we don't have the ability to have an individual user to have custom vocabulary, but it's absolutely something that we could add in the future, but we just haven't got to that yet, unfortunately.
Well, it's a tremendous technology at this point. Please keep working on it.
Thank you.
Hey, Jan, please go ahead.
I just wonder whether Dan can address aircasting, projection, and AR space.
Yes, great question. So it's really hard to explain to people what the difference between these different AR mode, augmented reality modes is. The best way to describe it is, it's such a good question, because we haven't actually managed to come up with a good description of how you describe the difference either. But effectively, with screencast mode, what we're looking at is just a copy of whatever is on our phone, effectively. So it's kind of just projecting the phone into augmented reality. And as you move your head about, the phone screen moves with you effectively. So it's kind of augmented reality, but it's not really augmented reality. What we call AR mode, which is proper augmented reality, is effectively, as I mentioned, the ability to be able to position digital elements in 3D space and have them stay in the same position regardless of moving your head about. So again, in the theatre example, we might have the captions for the performers. I want those captions to be on the stage, like right underneath the performers. And I then want to be able to look to my side and talk to my friend, and the subtitle, I don't see the subtitles, and then I then look back and there's the subtitle. So it basically, are we doing spatial processing or not? Does the application have any idea what I'm looking at? And, can it move things relative to that? So that's kind of proper augmented reality. And that's, again, it's called 3 degrees of freedom is the technical term for what's going on behind the scenes. So 0 degrees of freedom is it just moves with your head. 3 degrees of freedom is it can, respond to movements of your head, if that makes sense. So probably not a very good description, but hopefully tomorrow when you get the glasses working, you'll be able to tell the difference, because you'll be able to see both of them.
Great. I saw Joanne had her hand up.
Yes. Hi. I don't. Is it possible for us to test this in a theater? Are you doing things like that where you have outreach groups?
I mean, absolutely. Anybody can obviously get a set of glasses and try it in a theatre. But I mean, can we provide a set to you to test in a theatre? I mean, yes, very possibly. I mean, yeah, we have some spare sets. I don't know where you're physically based, but sure, if we can. Okay.
Yeah, so Broadway. So I'm very interested.
Excellent. Well, then, yes,
we'll be in
see what we can do.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, my business partner, Mitch, who's just about to fall asleep in the UK, is in New York next week. So maybe he can come meet with you and do a little test.
Great. Oh, in fact, that's fabulous. Into the Woods, 21st. So
great.
There we go.
There you go.
So I saw, here's Dustin posted a question, and maybe we can make this even more broad. So here's Dustin was wondering for Dan where we might see the most sales from originally, like what types of audiences and industries. And I'm also, I think Sam might have something to say about that too in terms of early adoption of smart glasses.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as I said before, we're still so early days in this, and I still don't think we're in a position where, people are going to be wearing these glasses like all day long. They're still not quite at that point yet. The users that, have been using our solution, at least, tell us that they use it for, a few hours at a time. If they're at a meeting or a play or, a family dinner or something like that, they'll put the glasses on for that, and then they'll take them off again afterwards. So I think, we're still, for us right now, the deaf audience is still the most appealing to us because, they get the most value from it right now and are prepared to put up with a few of the little hoops that you have to jump through. But translation is going to open this up to almost anyone. The personal assistant is going to open it up to almost anyone. So, I think fast forward 5 years, and everyone will just wear glasses. It will just be a completely normal thing. You're not going to go around looking at your phone anymore. You're just going to have glasses on. But we've got a long way to go from where we are right now, which is that, 999 out of every 1,000 people out there have never even experienced it before, never mind actually use it actively. So, Sam, I don't know if you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So in my industry, right, we get a lot of clients that are all working on different aspects of smart glasses, very similar to like what you guys are doing at X-Ray. And one thing that we have seen over the years is that to get consistent use from users, the application of it has to outweigh the clunkiness of wearing, a computer on your head for all intents and purposes. And so I think you're right. I think, we are moving in a direction to a post hold a screen in your hand world. And I, as like an enthusiast of this, I'm like, yes, I can't wait for the day. And I don't think we're that far off, right? I mean, the technological leaps we've seen over the last couple of years, just the minimization, the shrinking of all the technologies that are going into these types of devices has just skyrocketed. And particularly in the last couple of years with Facebook and Meta investing so much money into virtual reality, it's using a lot of the same components as the AR stuff. And so I think there's going to be a big boon for the smart glasses world that's going to come from a lot of the research and money that's been dumped into it by some of these bigger companies.
Makes sense. Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that there's two kind of different worlds, and I think we're somewhat seeing them here with Sam's project and with X-Ray using Nreals, because Sam has an ultra low power microcontroller on his system, which I think I'm imagining is running for quite a few hours. And because X-Ray has different needs, they have they need a display, might need to be higher resolution, might need to be world tracking. There's all of these technological hurdles you have to get over, and the display takes the most, it's the most weight, it takes the most power, and once you have power, you have batteries. And so there's a big difference between the clunkiness and the weight and the discomfort based on the requirements. And so we're already seeing audio glasses that are somewhat taking off in terms of like the Huawei or the Amazon or something like that, at least in terms of ability to wear all day, but glasses with displays still aren't there, like Dan was mentioning. I think someone else had a hand up for a while. Whoever, go ahead if you have anything you'd like to say.
Can you hear me?
On it. Yep, go ahead.
Well, for me, the application is very simple. I've lost my hearing. I have an auditory brainstem implant. Clarity for that is very, very poor. But friends found me Live Transcribe app, which has brought me back into the hearing world that I have on both my Android tablets on my phone, but I'm always having to look down at my phone for conversation, and it's conversation that I need most. And so the idea of having captioning in classes where I can actually be eye contact would be the best application and a simple application for me. So it's one of those things that very, very intriguing, very appealing to me to hear of the application. And I, of course, when I go to the movies and the captioning devices they provide in the classes are fabulous. There's just no way I could ever go to the movies to enjoy that. But again, I need a simple application, be able to read the conversation while looking at the people that I'm talking to. That is a world of difference for me. That would really make this a great tool if it functions like that.
So that's exactly what it does. So hopefully your prayers have been answered, and you can just, if you've got an Android phone, you can just download the app now and just try it and see how it compares to Live Transcribe. And if you like it, then just go and buy a set of glasses, and then you just connect the glasses to your phone and away you go.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that, George. So yeah, that is our time. And so I'd like to thank everybody for coming and joining the call. This has been super fun, very interesting. Thank you, Dan and Sam, both for your presentations. They're very cool. So that is a wrap, and thank you for joining. I just posted the link to the H20 Smart Glasses community in the chat. Please join the mailing list to stay in touch and join our future meetups. And yeah, thank you for joining. As is now becoming tradition, I will hang around for the after party in the chat. And so if, you know, our time's up, if you have to go, feel free, but I'll be hanging out. And if anybody has anything they want to discuss, the after party starts now. Well, one interesting thing that somebody pointed out about EEG plus smart glasses, it's something that recently we've been exploring with the open source smart glasses project, because we've been working on a contextual search engine, which is, it's listening to your conversation, it's transcribing the conversation. It's not focused on showing you the transcriptions as much as it's listening to what's being said and trying to guess what has somebody talked about that I don't fully know about or that I need a reminder about. So if someone mentions a politician you haven't heard of, it'll pull up their Wikipedia page in a summary. Or if somebody mentions a place that you haven't been to, it'll pull up the map. If somebody says a word you don't know, it'll pull up the definition for that word. And what we realized is there's a lot of false positives that occur there. Someone says, I brought my dog for a walk, and you get the Wikipedia page for dog, right? That's not needed. And so we've been starting to explore integrating things like EEG and biosensing to be able to understand an error signal, to be able to figure out the user was listening to what's going on, and all of a sudden they're missed what's happening. They're now not understanding what's going on, because if we can pick that up, then that's a cue that we should pull in more information to the user. So that's kind of where I am thinking that some of this brain sensing will be applied in smart glasses. Was that what you were thinking about, Stefan? This kind of thing?
No, like the thing is, what I thought of as a use case, it could be in future, I'm not sure. But when you, for example, use a smart glass, for example, the Vuzix smart glasses, I'm more familiar with. There are also no Zoe Meet. I'm not sure if you heard of it. They won the competition, which was a competition from Vuzix. And there you also have, let's say, live transcription of speech, and you can even use it without a phone. So that surprised me that the people use a phone and smart glasses, because I think maybe in 5 years we don't need a phone and smart glasses. Smart glasses will be powerful enough. I mean, there are like with the Shield coming, or I don't know, Oculus Quest Pro probably, or HoloLens, they're all able to work without a phone. So you don't need a phone and a smart glass. But maybe that's where it's going. But what I thought is, when you walk around and you scan, for example, QR codes with a smart glass, and maybe you could then with your mind say, I want to scan this QR code, I want to scan this QR code, because I think this is like really an issue when you have 5 QR codes next to each other and you're not sure which one to choose. And I think this is a real like a real use case, because you're like in a warehouse or something, you run around with the smart glass and then you have 10 QR codes. Which one do you scan? Which one do you want? And this QR code might take all of them, or that's what I was thinking of. Could be very interesting. I'm not sure how how this might be possible or realistic to build something like this with EEG. But when you saw like NextMind, or someone posted also another solution, it was done right by some companies, but it's very clunky and not really wearable maybe at the moment.
Yeah, gotcha. And I see your message there, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the presentation. And yes, happy holidays.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Have a great one.
Bye. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, Stefan. I mean, I've done some work in this brain sensing and kind of subliminal output areas, and I think we imagine that it would be a better experience to just think about which thing we want, and it magically is chosen. But when it comes down to it, often explicit command with some kind of brain sensor doesn't really make the most sense. For example, you're thinking about a barcode. You're going to look at the barcode you want to scan, right? So you're going to have a lot higher accuracy tracking if you just have eye tracking, looking at where somebody's looking and picking that specific thing. Or a lot of the time what's being explored now for explicit control is EMG, so muscle output, because there's a lot of complications when it comes to, do you just think the words in your head, or do you have to learn a new feeling, which is kind of lower accuracy, and it ends up being slower than if you just pointed to the thing or said what it is or looked at it.
Yeah, thanks. Makes sense. Yeah, maybe that wasn't the best use case I thought of. Could also be.
Cool. Well, great. Thanks everybody for joining. This was super fun. If anyone has anything else to add, please do so. But other than that, I think we can call it a wrap, and this was super fun.
Thanks, Caden.
Thank you, Caden. Thank you, Dan.
See you later. Have a good night.
Bye.
Okay, bye guys.